Hello all, welcome to lectures of electrical installation maintenance and testing. We are discussing unit 6 which is electrical safety, and in this lecture I am going to take review in short related to one very important act uh, in India as far as industries are concerned, which is Factory Act 1948. So these are the learning outcomes. At the end of this lecture, you will be able to understand two important points. One is you will be able to enlist what is legislation of India as far as this overall health safety is concerned. So legislation is nothing but what are main important acts we have to consider whenever we are considering industrial safety, and you will understand specifically provisions of Factory Act 1948. So this is mainly legislation in India as far as health and safety of workers working in industries are concerned. So I'll just explain you. These first two things are typically related with functional safety, means safety for the people who are working at field. You can understand this is factory and these are the mines. So here the years are mentioned, means this is the year when these acts have come into picture. But these are the not the only documents earlier put forth by government of India, but time to time there are some amendments also. So we are going to understand in this particular lecture some of the amendments also which are done in the Factories Act, and these two acts, from their names only will understand, these are typically related with the social safety, not safety during working, but here you can understand it's a compensation which is uh, some of the factories for a particular workmen. So there are typically some provisions which factory owner or a factory board of directors, they have to fulfill for their employees. And another provision is Employees State Insurance Act 1948. So I will again repeat, these are actually acts related with working environment, and these two are related with social security or social safety. So our focus of this particular lecture is only Factory Act. So let us start understanding what is scope of Factory Act. As I mentioned earlier, it's 1948. So first thing to understand, in layman's language, we may call each and every industry as a factory. Wherever we see manufacturing, we may call that particular area or that particular industry as a factory. But as per Factory Act 1948, there is a typical definition of factory. And what is that definition? That definition is factory is establishment employing 10 or more workers where power is used. So use of power is important, and 20 or more workers where power is not used. So this is the typical definition. After that, you should not make some difference between perennial and seasonal factories. Uh, as per 1976 amendment, so this act had amendment in 1976. As per that, the contract laborers which work in that particular manufacturing process, they are also coming under this act. So it is very important for all the factories to take care of their contract laborers also. And last but not the least, this act, as per our earlier provisions during independence, it is applicable across India, but there is exception, which is state of Jammu and Kashmir. So now we will start understanding in short what are the provisions for different points. These are some of the provisions related with health and safety. So we will see that for health and safety, what should be the environment, or how should be the overall working area for all the workers in any factory that they have given a provision. So this is the treatment of wastes and effluents wherever there are wastes are created or effluents are thrown out. So effluents, so as to render them innocuous and for their disposal, the elimination of dusts and fumes, the provision of spittoons, control of temperature, supply of cool drinking water during summer, and for the employment of cleaners to keep the water closets clean. So you can understand from this discussion, there are some provisions in this act which are ensuring the working area for the worker will be having very high quality healthy environment, a minimum of 500 cu feet of space for each worker has been prescribed. So a space per worker has been also established as per rule, which is 500 cubic feet. Every factory has to fulfill these conditions. Time to time, factory inspectors are visiting and they are ensuring. And even before getting some approvals for the factories, these care this is these cares are taken that whatever has been mentioned in law, whether it's being fulfilled or not. Also, this act provides that no worker shall be required to lift or carry loads which are likely to cause him injury. So, this is very important. Everybody should be given a work related to their capacity. So, there should not be any act of worker in such a way that you are deliberately injuring that worker, giving that work. So, those were provisions related with health and safety. Apart from that, there are some welfare provisions also. For example, the Act contains a separate chapter relating to specific welfare measures. For example, washing facilities, facilities for storing and drying clothes, etc. This Act also specifies wherein more than 250 workers are there, which are ordinarily employed. Canteen is must. So, food facility is important where more than 250 workers are ordinarily employed. There is 1976 amendment which provides for creches in every factory wherein more than 30 women workers are ordinarily employed. So wherever women employees are there, there are some typical provisions. In a factory where 500 or more workers are ordinarily employed, there should be welfare officers. So there must be some person who is taking care of all these acts. These are age related provisions and we hear it time to time. So no child labor is allowed in these factories. So what is the provision? So children below age of 14 years, uh, those are prohibited, and declares persons between 15 to 18 as adolescent. So for that there is provision. There must be a certificate from a certifying surgeon which is declaring their fitness. So restrictions have been laid down on employment of women and children in certain dangerous occupations. So child who has not completed his 14 year of age has been restricted from employment in any factory. Here you can understand, not only in any factory, everywhere there is provision. So they cannot work even in your industries like even hotel industry. So you can understand. We will always find that board outside every hotel that we are not promoting any child labor in this area. So this is very important thing. Why these all acts are important? Because whenever you are joining as an engineer, any industry and you are working at field, you are going to be manager for some particular big project. You must be aware of all these rules and regulations, and this is part of overall safety procedures. Okay. So next thing is working hours. The act has prescribed a maximum 48 working hours per week. So you can understand, even if we consider a single holiday in the week, 8 hours provision is there every day, not exceeding 9 hours per day with rest of at least half hour after 5 years of continuous work. So your breaks and all these things are adjusted with these rules. For adolescent, the hours of work have been reduced from 5 to 4.5, so 4.5. There is again some amendment. Provision to increase the spread over a period of work of an employee in a factory uh, up to 12 hours, up to 12 hours from the existing 10.5 hours. So there is a provision as per 1976 to increase the spread over period of work of an employee in a factory up to 12 hours from existing. So you can have a duty of 12 hours. That they have they have done some amendment in that. The total number of hours of work in a week, including overtime, shall not exceed 60. So you will not, even including overtime, you will not work for more than 60 hours working hours in a week as per Factory Act. Leave provisions, as you are aware, even employees working in factory, though they are contract laborers, they will get some leaves. So this act lays down the beside the weekly holidays. So apart from your weekly holidays, every worker will be entitled to leave with wages after 12 months continuous service at the following rate. So adult 1 day for every 20 days of work, and children 1 day for every 15 days of work. Okay. So the leave can be accumulated up to 30 days in case of adults and 40 days in case of children. So these are the leave provisions. So it's obligatory to the part of the factory management to give information regarding some typical accidents, serious bodily injuries, regarding occupational diseases contracted by employees. And the Act gives a schedule of notifiable diseases. So there is some provision of diseases already enlisted in this Act document. And what you can do, every time you must, being factory management or a site in charge, you have to convey uh, uh, you have to convey a concerned authority in government, like a factory inspector, about the accidents, time to time issues as far as safety is concerned, and some manpower loss and all these things. Uh, the central government has incorporated a new chapter 4A by this Factory Act 1987 relating to hazardous processes. So, hazardous area provision is over there, and here you can understand, though this is not a part of safety, actually site appraisal is also there. So committee consisting of a chief inspector and other members, not more than 14 in number, for examination of service condition of employees in a factory involving hazardous processes is to be constituted for recommendation. So this part I am typically highlighting, this particular part. So this particular part you are going to understand as a separate point in this particular unit, which is called as a hazardous area classification. So just get idea, you can understand. There will be some committee which is going to inspect your site for all the provisions. So up to here, hazardous areas and overall your all the conditions are inspected by the committee members. Last but not the least, you can come to my Padlet and can discuss about your understandings. References, you can understand this is government document Act. So the best way to understand Act is to read whole Act, but definitely you can have some typical understanding like I have told you right now. You can definitely read n number of documents related with this Act. You can have some case studies also, but for the sake of understanding, I have given a one link where this is a very good document. It's a document of certificate course which I have got while doing some literature survey. So you can go on this document and you can have understanding not only of Factory Act. There is one annexure also in this document where you will again in detail can get what is there in this act. So in this particular lecture we have tried to understand some of the provisions of Factory Act, and also we have understood what is the significance of Factory Act as far as electrical engineering is concerned. I will again repeat, you must be aware of some of the rules and regulations out of this when you are joining in industry as a field engineer or as a manager, and as you are going to achieve some higher and higher posts, these all things are going to be vital for your career. So with this discussion I stop over here. Thank you.